Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Now, here comes the host of The Edge of Liberty, full of sarcasm, bourbon, truth, and devoid of the need to say the letter R.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty. My camera didn't turn on. Have you ever been so ugly that the camera won't even turn on to you? Obviously, I am. That was odd. That has never happened before. Thank you so much for joining us on the 7th of May, 2025. Remember, Mother's Day is right around the corner. Got a lot to talk about this evening. A whole mess load of topics. Everything from Pakistan to follow up on the law in California we discussed Monday night. How truly horrific the air traffic control system is in this country and what's being done about it. They got a whole bunch of other little tidbits here and there. Thank you to our friends who simulcast me and other SHR shows over on KLRN Radio. Make sure you check them out. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Hey, if you want to get in the chat and chat with the chatters in the chat room, you can do so. Just go over to YouTube, SHR Media. You'll see the logo that's right here. Click on that. Click on the live stream. And while you're there, please like and subscribe. Like the episode, even if you're already subscribed, it helps us out greatly. Starting off in Pakistan and India, right on the border, Kashmir, which has been a longly contested area. For those people who don't know, India and Pakistan were actually one and the same for a long time. And then when the British left, what was it, 1947? Yeah. They partitioned it. Oh, welcome, Mission Ready Men's in the chat room. Hey, hey. The Lost Wanderer, Jeff, in the chat room. It's so hard to not use BZ's jokes. Yeah, full screen Sean. I apologize for that. Nobody likes full screen Sean. I don't even like full screen Sean. And I think I'm friggin' handsome. So anyhow, yeah, when the British left in 47, it was partitioned out. India and Pakistan, the only difference between them is religion. I mean, this is literally a sibling rivalry, except in this case, siblings are armed with nuclear weapons. The contested area, both sides have claimed to be theirs, and then India controlled it. I think Pakistan controlled it for a while. There's a terrorist attack there a couple weeks ago. The Indians blamed the Pakistanis. Pakistani terrorists backed by Pakistan, not the actual military itself. And then yesterday, or if you go with it, hey, Ricky's in the chat, BZ's in the chat. Thank you both for being here. If you go back through, I think it was like 2 days ago, technically, but it was yesterday, our time, whatever. The Indians started an artillery attack on the Pakistani side over the line. And when I say these two are sibling rivalries, it's the weirdest thing in the world. It would be like if we split this country north and south, where there are so many things alike and so many differences. In the case of India and Pakistan, it really comes down to religion. Pakistan's Muslim. They became a Muslim nation right after they got partitioned off by the British. India's Hindu. Like I said, Kashmir's been contested from the beginning, and there's been numerous fightings right from 47. There was a second Kashmir War in 65, the same area they're fighting with now. where actually the Russians brokered a deal there, believe it or not. Oh, sorry, at the time they were actually the Soviets. The Bangladesh Liberation War in 71, they were both part of that. The cargo conflict back in 99, and then you had taken all the different terrorist attacks. You had the Indian Parliament attack in 01, the Mumbai-style attacks, the Uri attacks, and the Indian surgical strikes in 2016, the Pulwama bombings, and the Palakkad airstrike, and now here we are. Like I said, both countries are nuclear armed. India at 74, Pakistan in 98. They both have military, U.S. military weapons. They both have weapons from China. They farm out to everything. The good news is, I'll start with the good news first. The good news is, history has shown us that these little skirmishes, these battles, and I hate to say that because I think it's something like 35 people are dead and another 30 something injured. That's confirmed. I don't know if there's more than that. I don't know if there's not more than that. Pakistan's claiming to have shot down 5 Indian jets, specifically Rafale jet, French made, that the Indians have. And if you look at some of the debris that's been on the ground, and I've been looking at it, a lot of them look like drop tanks. I am, by the way, no expert on this. So I'm just going off of what I've seen other people who are smarter than I saying. They look like drop tanks. Allegedly, last night at some point, and I believe both sides have said this, there was over 160 aircraft in the air at once engaging each other, allegedly. And that's when the 5 Indians aircraft got shot down. And the Pakistanis allegedly also shot down a drone. No Pakistani aircraft were allegedly shot down. It was, if that is true, that would be the biggest active dogfight in like 50 years. Because even when we were in the Gulf both times, there weren't that many dogfights. A lot of their planes turned tail and took off. Remember that. If it was one of the French-made Rafale jets, it would be the first time that was ever downed in combat. It's just, here's the other thing that you're never going to get out of this, either country, is the truth. There's a lot of, there's a specific, there's an incredible amount of machismo, if you will, between both countries. If you've ever watched their border guard videos, 50 years, getting in the chat room. I knew I would as soon as I said it. But yeah, there's a lot of machismo. If you ever go through and you watch they have a border where they have these competitions, contests, whatever you want to call it, where they do this very ceremonial foot stomping, leg kicking. They both do the whole ha-ha to each other's face and fix their beards. There's a lot of just like machismo is really the only word that I can think of to describe it. There's a lot of puffing of the chest, and there has been going on years and years and years. Now, unfortunately, people have died. Look, obviously, we deserve no part in this. We want no part in this. We need no part in this, okay? History has shown us that this will eventually cool down, and they will go back to their little dancing at the border and showing which side's tougher than the other one and wearing giant hats. And it's... yeah, Cheetah nailed it. Thank you. The border guard videos are like peacocks strutting for mates against each other, and they do the same moves. They have almost like the same uniforms in different colors. Because they are, and this is like internet. It's just sibling rivalry, is what it is, and it makes you wonder what the real purpose is. Pakistan. They've had India has been pretty stable politically for a long time. Pakistan has not been politically stable for a long time. The prime minister, whatever their leader, I think their leader's called the prime minister, was assassinated 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's always been up and down. I mean, obviously it's far more stable than Afghanistan. I don't worry about nukes in this case because you literally would be nuking yourself. I mean, they're that close together. Um, I don't see it getting to that point. Like I said, it's gonna peter out. But unfortunately, now 30 people have died, and 31 have died. And the cities that targeted were Bahawalpur and Kotli. If I'm sure I'm hacking that up, my apologies. So it's just something to watch. I don't think, and I'm sure everyone in the chat room agrees, this isn't going to go anywhere. This will be over in probably a couple days, and then they'll go back to peacocking at the border. It struck me at how violent it was. I'll tell you, if you watched, we were watching Agenda Free TV last night, which I like Agenda Free TV. Steve's goofy at times, but he does a good job of presenting material. And to watch the artillery, it was, I mean, it wasn't it wasn't partitioned. It was just constant bombardment for hours in whatever little town they were in. And it was just ridiculous because it doesn't need to happen. I mean, obviously the terrorist attack didn't need to happen either, but this doesn't need to happen. Like I said, I said, Peter, like I said, the older I get, especially, and I was never a big fan of war. I mean, who wants to see young people die? But the older I get, the least less and less that I have a stomach for it. I mean, there's just no need. And in this case, 31 people in the terrorist attack, I think 22 people were killed, and that's senseless too. But in the Indian missile attack, you're talking of upwards of 30 people killed, 30 injured, and they're mostly civilians. They weren't attacking Indian bases. That's what is even more annoying. At one point, Pakistan said that they took over an Indian guard post and then took POWs again. No pictures, no evidence. We don't know what is going on. It's just going to be weird. This is going to be one of those conflicts where it's interesting to see social media taking part in this conflict as as we have seen agenda free, not gender free, agenda free. As we have seen in the past, it's just stupid. I mean, you don't need to be. That's the one thing is, if India launched attacks on Pakistan military bases, Pakistan government buildings, whatever, okay, fine. I understand there's collateral damage in those situations. I'm not blind to that. The older I get is a great song. Thank you, Facebook user. I understand there would be collateral damage, but they were just carpet artillery bombing a small town or a couple small towns, and that to me makes zero sense whatsoever. Like, I don't if you have a terrorist attack and you're responding against a military element and there are collateral damages. I haven't even been drinking tonight. Collateral damages. I understand that's an unfortunate byproduct of it. If you feel that there's a necessary military objective, I understand that. I'm not for it. Like I said, I'm not for the fighting there. I think it doesn't need to happen. But to just randomly attack villages with artillery, which is what they were doing. I was watching on TV. There was no military structures whatsoever nearby. And they were just hitting houses. And I just think that to me, every time Israel, and I'm going to make this correlation real quick, lifts their finger to defend themselves, everyone goes run to the UN about war crimes, right? War crimes, war crimes, war crimes. India was just launching artillery from what I was watching and from what I was being told at a city for no reason. And that to me is just that's unacceptable. I mean, like I said, unless they can show me that there was a military objective, okay, but just I didn't see it. Maybe somebody in the chat room correct me. I know I have a Facebook user, somebody chatting on Facebook, whoever that is. If you go to SHI Media YouTube, I'll be able to see who you are chatting. Plus, you can like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I love that everybody's on my accent tonight. That makes me laugh hysterically. You're not getting AI generated Sean tonight. No, you're getting the real Sean. Moving along. So Monday night I discussed that there was the bill that California was working on. It was a bipartisan bill that the Democrats shot down, go figure, that had to do with turning purchasing of a sex from a child 16 and 17 years old into a felony. There was a bill that passed a couple years ago that accidentally forgot that. There was an argument that changing it to a felony would somehow be disproportionately affecting the LGBTQ community. State Senator Weiner also said that the sex offender registry somehow does that. Don't know how that happens. So the bill's gone forward, and I'm thankful for this. It's been updated where the language would be updated in the original bill, from what I'm being told. By the way, if you're interested in this at all, hey, Reaver of Common Sense in the chat. Thank you. If you're interested in this at all, Ashley Zavala at Zavala A on X does a really, really, really good job. Let them go, but not civilian targets aren't right. I heard that Pakistan was doing a military attack after the airstrikes. That's by Josh in chat. Josh, you might be right, bud. This is the problem that I've said before. You're not going to get a straight answer as to who was bombing who and how they were bombing each other out of there. Both countries have shown in the past that they'll lie about it. And like I said, I think in a few days this is going to be an old story, but it was worth mentioning just because they are nuclear armed nations. I mean, at the end of the day, that's something we should probably be concerned with. But going back to what I was talking about with the California law, so it looks like this bill is going to pass. It will turn buying sex from a 16 and 17-year-old into a felony. I can't believe they had to have this conversation. I can't believe it. I said last week, Monday rather, it pissed me off to no end to think that this is even a conversation to be had. Like, how is that even a question? Of course, buying sex from a child should be a felony. Anyone who disagrees with, I'll meet you behind the barn and we'll have a conversation about it. Because to me, if you're against that, you get some skeletons we need to beat out of you. So AB 379 it's not online yet. Apparently, it will be uploaded today, and apparently, it is going to pass. Now, I found this funny. So just before I went on the air, nuclear. Yeah, I said nuclear, Jersey Joe. Just before I went on the air, I saw this post, and it's related to this, and it kind of struck me kind of funny. At first, I was just like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Why? And here it is. Ashley Zavala posted, and I'll zoom in for you. The California Assembly moved forward with a bill that makes it easier for prosecutors to file felonies against those who buy 16 and 17-year-olds for sex. Okay. Adult sex workers showed up at the hearing worried police got more power to intervene in prostitution. First of all, why are we using pronouns? What happened to the days when hookers would just be hookers? Why are we using pronouns now? But okay, I digress. What are you worried about the police having more power with? When it comes to stopping sex trafficking, child trafficking, you do realize, and if you're a hooker, look, I'm not judging you for that. As long as nobody gets hurt, I don't give a shit. I really don't. The older I get, the less it friggin' matters to me. Just don't do it around kids and schools and families. Just use the internet like all the other modern hookers do. But why do you care if the police have more power? Look, I'll tell you something right now. Living in California and most other states, I'm not saying every state, most other states, prostitution is so far down the bottom of their list that it's not going to affect you. But most of these loitering laws, so they used to have a lot more loitering laws in California. Loitering, Massachusetts, they used to have it too. I don't know if they still do. Loitering with the intent to prostitution or sell sex, essentially. And they got rid of a lot of them. And now prostitution's gotten bad again. And they found with that prostitution in California, there is a lot of juveniles involved. Now, if you're just a hooker and you're an adult and yeah, you're doing your own thing, you're in a misdemeanor area, whatever. Do you still want to see kids being prostituted out there? Because I'll tell you right now, most of those 16, 17-year-old kids are probably trafficked and are doing it against their will in some way. Not every single one of them. Asterisk. There's a reason that they learn to do it and from somebody. However, the vast majority of them are out there against their will. And we've seen the stories. Everybody's seen the stories of a girl who makes a friend online, or there's a little bit old, she's 14, 15, and there's a little 16. There's an older friend who's 18, 19 who befriends her. I have a friend. She starts partying with them. They start pumping her full of drugs. And then all of a sudden she's prostituting herself. It's a tragic and horrific fucking story that keeps happening in this country. Look, like I said, if you're 18 and you want to go walk the street on your own free will and you're taking chances, but if you go to do that, you're an adult. If you get caught, you get caught at the end of the story. When it comes to children, and I would say, I'm not going to say park the car, I'm on the edge. Jeez. I would say 95% of the hookers out there agree with this. But who are these assholes that showed up to stand against this bill that protects kids? Who? And why are we doing? Why is that okay? As soon as somebody walks in, they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm against this. And I think that, buying sex from a kid's okay. Oh, it might affect other things. It might affect this. I'm going to start yelling pervert, pedophile, pervert. Buying a kid for sex, and you're going to stand in the way of that? No. And then we're using ho-nouns, which is even worse. California sex workers. No, you're not a sex worker. You're not a sex worker. A strip is a stripper, a hook is a hooker. How are you a sex worker? And I don't, like I said, I'm not trying to insult the prostitutes that are in the Nevada brothels. Okay. But even in their law, the Nevada code, I believe it says prostitute. I don't think it says adult sex worker. Maybe they've changed it. And that's the only state where prostitution's legal. So that's the only legal definition we should be sticking with. But seriously, the ho-nouns, it just killed that. That part actually made me funny. I was infuriated with the rest of it, but that part actually made me fucking laugh my ass off. I was like, that's adult sex work. Okay. I guess we're being nice to everybody now. So I in the chat room, and I will read them out. I'm going to move on. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to get this rolling. What is the politically correct way to say pimp now? If we're saying adult sex workers, and we're no longer using hooker, prostitute, whatever, then what is now the politically correct term for pimp? Oh, the chat room's going to have fun with that. Hey, you can have fun with the chat room if you go to SHR Media on YouTube and jump in the chat. I'm going to take a break here in a minute. Do me a favor. Please subscribe where you see that little logo, wherever you're watching from. Jump in the comments. Say hi, even if you don't want to talk about it. Let's see. Rick James. No. Not an actual pimp, Rick Robinson. I'm saying, what is the politically correct name for pimp? Would it be like a body auctioneer? I don't know what the word is for it. Somebody work that out for me. I guess sex worker manager at the end of the day. Procurer. Okay. Dealer, right? Adult sex worker, dealer. I don't know what the term is. It just by the way, no white smoke today. There was no Pope elected. The Cardinals are still in there. I'm sure somebody's going to sue because their Pope nominee as Cardinal didn't go in the first round. If you followed any of the insanity with Deion Sanders' kids in the last football draft, you will get that joke. It blew my acquisitions expert. I like an agent. Yeah, you could just have Josh was right. There we go. You have an adult sex worker agent, a talent agent, I guess you could say. So no Pope was was selected today. Kash Patel, do I have time to? I get time to do this. I can pull this video up. Kash Patel was in front of Congress and absolutely just destroyed from Pennsylvania. And just watch this. This, you know, when I'm feeling down, ooh, sex worker Somali. Purveyor of a good time for monetary return. Very professional. I like that. That actually looked good on a business card there. Jersey Joe, Reaver of Common Sense. ESPN upset the Black Pope has not been selected in the first round. I appreciate all the responses to my pimp question. So this is when I'm feeling down and blue, I like to watch a Democrat in public get humiliated by somebody they're trying to question. And this was right here. Kash Patel is doing what Kash Patel does.
Agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize.
First of all, we both know it wasn't a sad, solemn duty for her. That's BS. He took great pleasure into it. I hate when they do that. Sorry, mute button was on. She took great pleasure in that. I hate when they do that, when they act like it was a solemn, sad moment. No, you didn't. You were absolutely thrilled to impeach Trump. As a matter of fact, I bet you that was the most, it put a thrill up your leg like Obama did for Chris Matthews. There's no doubt in my mind. I fixed the no sound. My apology. I have the cough interrupt button on the floor, and every once in a while, I don't even realize my foot's on it, and my foot was on it. So I fixed it. I'm sorry. So for her to say, "Oh, it gave me great sadness," cut the shit. We all know you're lying through your teeth. Cut it out.
And investigate his perceived enemies as you follow this blueprint. When can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Now, first of all, if this was me, I would have just been, my exact response would have been, "I'm sorry, who are you again? And why would I be investigating you?" And just leave it at that. Like, I have no idea who you are. It says representative, whatever your name is, and that's fine. But why would I even investigate you? I have no idea who you are. You're a nobody. I was here to talk to the other people who are important. But I digress. Go ahead, Cash, you finish.
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the
topic.
book because there's no enemies list on that book.
So
there are people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people,
That's good. You
and they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can
changing
read
topics.
about.
I won't.
Nailed it. That is how you respond to somebody trying to get their 20 seconds of fame. I'm not. Am I muted again? No, I'm not muted again. Rick, you stop screwing with me in the chat room. You know, jerk. But that was good. He got me. Okay. I'll remember that. It was he was muted. It wasn't me. Okay. Oh man. I legitimately thought you were messing with me. And then the first thing I was doing was checking the button under the floor. So thanks. Go back to what I was saying though. These representatives, and Kash Patel is going to touch on this in just a few minutes. These representatives who all they do now in these hearings is try to get their 20-second sound clip. They try to get their campaign fundraising clip. They try to get just whatever is going to get them reelected. And this is what needs to happen more and more. They need to turn around and start to realize that unless you just start asking straight questions and you stop with the diatribe of, "I'm holding the book you wrote. Where's the enemies list?" and yada, yada. There's no enemies list. There doesn't need to be an enemies list because, believe it or not, everybody who broke the law in Congress or towed the line of it, we all have the receipts digitally. They wouldn't need an enemies list. But if you're so nervous that they're coming after you for something, and you believe in the rule of law and you believe in facts, then you should have nothing to worry about if you did nothing wrong, right? Isn't that what we're told all the time? If you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. So why are you pushing this so much where you're worried that there's an enemies list? And again, as BZ taught me a long, long time ago when we started doing this, it's all projection. They're projecting what they've done in the past with their enemies list, their checklists of who and what to prosecute so they can't run and elect again, that they're worried that other people do it. And Kash Patel, as I believe Mission Ready Men said, lowered the boom on her today, and it was just lovely. We take a break. When we come back, talk about just how horrible air traffic control is in this country after the break, right here on the SHR Media Network. You're watching The Edge.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
I love Democrats who are now like all concerned about air traffic control. They spent $1.2 trillion in the Biden era, Buttigieg era, $1.2 trillion on American infrastructure, and they didn't spend anything on air traffic control, and they knew it was getting old and needed a massive rebuild. They didn't do it. Now they're complaining during the Trump administration, we're the ones that are actually going to fix it. I love Democrats who are now like all concerned about air traffic control.
I am just blown away.
They spent $1.2 trillion.
If you start digging into how bad America's air traffic control system is, it's frightening. You wonder how we have so many close calls in this country. Look, I understand that you have these big, big airports, and I know how many planes are in the sky. I know the percentages. I get all of that. But do you realize that 1/3 of the FAA systems, and I have all this written down in notes, are over 30 years old? Think about that. Think about how far technology has come. You know how far technology has come is I can literally open up Grok or ChatGTP right now and ask it for a breakdown of the current FAA computer system, and it will give it to me. How do I know that? I used it as part of my research for the show tonight. 30 years old. I'll tell you something. When I first got into law enforcement in Massachusetts, we were using a system that was 8 years old. It was an old green screen. We had an Onge data printer. That was the dispatch and in-house system. That was considered to be antiquated and far, far, far behind the current times. That was 25 years ago. Dear God, that was longer than 25 years ago. Neither here nor there. You now have computer systems, a third of them that are over 30 years old. Think about, the computer systems are old enough to rent a car, right? At the airports that they're supposed to be monitoring the air traffic around. I mean, you're talking, I can't even begin. I mean, it's not tubes, but it might as well be tubes. And why hasn't it been updated? Look, you remember, and Secretary Duffy was talking about this. If you remember in the break room, they can play Pong. Yeah, they can play Pong. That's an age joke right there. Do you remember the infrastructure bill? Do you remember how huge that bill was under Biden? It was enormous. It's about how old my AOL account is. Yeah, it is. Commodore 64s. AOL account actually got me. I mean, do they have to dial up? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And it is. It's on that green screen, that black and green screen. They're on dot matrix systems at that point. There are 1,000. This is per week. This blew me away. There are 1,000 equipment failures per week in the United States. Joshua Kemp in the chat room. Thank you for joining us, Josh. You've been a fun addition. We're still using 40, 50-year-old stuff. Think about the nukes that, might not be able to get hacked. And I understand there's that worry. I know that when you modernize, it opens it up to other things. I do understand that. But when you have 1,000 pieces of equipment failing each week, and where are you getting the parts to fix them? Are we still making parts for 30-year-old machines? Think about that. In 2024 alone, you had 1,100 runway incursions at controlled airports. 1,100. None of this should be happening in modern day and age. And look, I understand Joshua brought up the chat room. I understand the hacking component is scary. But when you have, I mean, what was it? New Jersey this week, Liberty Airport, Newark. What do they go down for 90 minutes? 90 minutes, 90. I don't know. I would think that if you had multiple systems all working in sync but separated and they hacked one, you could swap to another system. I'm not a computer expert. I don't claim to be an computer expert. But normally you have a backup for something like that at most major companies, right? I mean, how many times you're on YouTube where they just constantly swap the servers where everything is? All the information's there. It's all run in sync. But if one goes down for one reason, another one picks it up, right? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I can own that. But you wonder how something like the CRJ crash with the Black Hawk helicopter 2 months ago, how that happened. Yes, there is absolutely, they're Frankenstein these systems. A lot of these parts and components are no longer made. Yeah, and I know Mission Ready Men works in computers. He will know far better than I do. And I know there was pilot error in that incident that happened in DC. I get that. I understand that the pilot was told to deviate and did not deviate by her co-pilot and was instructed to go behind the CRJ. I understand all of that. But you're not going to tell me that by adding, and their plan is to add fiber optic satellite systems to help tracking and obviously increase staff. Yeah. And I'm sure And Joshua, again, I don't know this per se, but I bet you it'd be easier to bring the tech up in the airplanes if that's what you're saying, if the tech in the airplane is old too, and that would all have to be updated. Or if you're saying vice versa, the tech in the airplane is way advanced than the tech in the tower. But you can't tell me with the addition of fiber optic satellites that it wouldn't make it safer and it wouldn't make it easier. I mean, you're looking right now, they're looking at old radar screens, right? The line goes round, it sends out its signal and it waits for the return. And that's how it tracks height, distance, and location. You're telling me now that we don't have the ability to have a more 3D system so that that air traffic controller can sit there and almost see a simulated view of where the airplanes are on the horizon. That seems to me like it would make far more sense than just dots and hoping that they read the 31, the 30, the 9, whatever, the little numbers next to it right. You could have a visual representation. You can say, oh, that plane is 25 miles out at 1,000 feet, and this helicopter is at whatever. And it would be easier for them to understand. Plus, you got to remember too, and we hear this all the time. The military pushed this enormously. They were recruiting using gaming systems for things like drones and stuff like that, and going after kids that are really good at it. Why? Because that's what they knew, and it was easier to take their knowledge and apply it to drones than it would be my radar on the phone. Oh, I guarantee that technology in your phone is better than what's in those towers. No doubt in my mind. And now you have the same issue where you have young people entering. And it's so funny to think the technology that I grew up with would be foreign, but it's foreign to these kids. And how do you even understand how to read a radar on a simple black screen with a circle? It's going to be harder to teach them that and have them unlearn what they perceive computers to be than to upgrade the system to something that they would actually know and understand. But it's frightening. All that money for the infrastructure bill, and we're told they're going to fix it. And it's not like this is a new issue. It's not like all of a sudden by Starlink to defend the frontier against the Dakota Armada. It's 100% what they were doing with the military. They were recruiting these gamer kids and they were using gaming systems. And from what I was told, a lot of these drones fly with what is the equivalent of an Xbox or a PlayStation controller. And somebody who flew them told me that. Some of them, not all of them. Anywho, you can't. I'm just so frustrated. And I'm frustrated because this has been going on for years. For years, we've been having problems with the air traffic control system. For years, it's been plagued. I mean, it's funny that the emphasis is always on the airlines when their systems go down and there's massive delays. 100% need accountability there. Yes, I get it. I'm for it. With you. Bingo. But when air traffic control goes down, which is a government-run, U.S. government-run facility and equipment, there's no accountability there. They just go, hey, it's back up again. Sorry, it's an old system. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, well, there were planes in the air. There were planes about to land. That happened in Newark. There were planes about to land. And the fact that that was not addressed under this massive infrastructure bill, remember like the CHIPS bill, like you had a great reason to push the CHIPS bill if you were Biden or just in general with the infrastructure bill. Hey, this is dangerous. Nothing's ever been done about it. We need to fix this. Go. This is what some of this money would be used for. I think a lot of people would have understood that. We've been fixing this for over a decade, like our power grid. Yeah, our power grids are unbelievably antiquated and old, and mice running on wheels essentially is the only thing that keeps power going to the house. So hopefully this gets accomplished. Hopefully this gets done, because this is, like I said, this is a much bigger issue than people understand. At least I believe it's a much bigger issue that people understand. And it's ridiculous that it's so old. Ridiculous. But yeah, power grids are garbage too. And You know, it's funny. I know BZ will probably remember this, but I know on the West Coast for a long time, we were having sniper attacks on the power grids out here. California had sniper attacks on the power grids, and they were literally just attacking the facilities. But that goes to show you, a lot of that got got swept way, way, way under the radar from the news. I mean, just way so far under the old antiquated, so far off the old antiquated radar system, the news buried that up. And I want to say it was something like 15 attacks up and down the West Coast trying to take out the power grid. And nobody ever talked about that. That doesn't get talked about. You don't hear much about it. Let's see. Oh, these idiots. Have you seen? You've heard what's going on in New York, and there's been protests yet again against Israel, and they've overtaken yada, yada, yada. It's the same old story. I don't like to give them too much credit, too much airtime, because it's just, they're idiots to me. But this one caught my attention. I'm going to play this through. It's a minute, 22 seconds. I want you to find the theme in this little online meeting that has to do with anti-Israel protests that happened on campus. This is out of Temple University. There it is.
So we see this existential connection between the Palestinian students movement and the political prisoners. So the Palestinian student, the day after of Oslo, they changed their activism from the campus to the armed struggle. If Palestine is liberated, this means this is a nail to dismantle the United States of America.
We know it's a victory when a red triangle goes above an Israeli soldier's head and the pit gets iced. Like, we know that's a victory. We know it's a victory when prisoners break out. We know it's a victory when all these things happen. But a lot of people don't necessarily know that. And it's not their fault they don't know that. It's our fault.
We will free Mumia because it is our job to destroy imperialism, destroy the United States, and destroy capitalism and the system of extraction that it relies on to perpetuate itself. And we will do it by organizing in a manner that actively undermines and destabilizes the legitimacy and the power of the state and the power and legitimacy of capitalism.
When they tell you who they are, it is imperative that you listen. These are the goals of some of these protest groups, probably all of them. That's speculation. I don't know that for a fact. But if it's going along in these little circles, then you know it's going along with Antifa and all those other little bastards, right? We know they all communicate. They all send the same message. It's just like mainstream media. Once the Democrats use a phrase that they want to get pushed out, then mainstream media repeats it over and over. That's the same thing that happens in these little circles and groups. And look, like what I'm doing right now, you can sit at home and broadcast, and they tell you who they are. They tell you who they are. They want to dismantle America. They want to destroy America. They're down with so-called imperialism, which I do love when we get called imperialists, because I just beg other people to go and look at what imperialists actually are. And look, I know we stick our nose in a lot of places that it doesn't belong, but we don't necessarily meet the definition of imperialists as a country. Britain does, did. Other countries have, did. We don't exactly, they love to throw that out there because they've made that into a dirty word, or they've used that as a dirty word. And the other one is capitalism. They love to destroy capitalism. And it kills me, because if it wasn't for capitalism, they wouldn't be on their cell phones chit-chatting about this. They wouldn't be on TikTok. They wouldn't be on X or any of these other social media outlets. They wouldn't have Nike sneakers. They wouldn't have the computers. They wouldn't have the lights. They wouldn't have the flags. All of that stuff was because of capitalism. Because of capitalism. Is some of it crony? Sure. Absolutely. And needs to be dealt with. Look at Nike. Nike's a crony capitalist. They use slave labor in China Well, they were. I don't know how long that's going to be going for. To spend $10 on a pair of sneakers and then bring it over here and sell it for $100 on the back of kids in China. I think that's crony capitalism. I think that's exploitation. It's borderline slavery. I mean, yeah, I'm sure maybe the kids aren't forced to go there every day, but they kind of are. Right? So all these little piss ants don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it just infuriates me. Absolutely infuriates me. Oh man, freaking capitalist, yada yada yada. It's like, dude, you have no idea what capitalism is. I mean, Alabama and a co-op from Alabama Power, Southern Power, knocking on wood, haven't had a problem. And look, Joshua, I'm glad your power stays on a lot of places. I mean, shit, I don't know if you heard what happened in Spain a couple weeks ago, but it's definitely problematic. Outdated power systems, going back to that. But yeah, these kids have no idea what the hell they're talking about. This is what happens when they are reared strictly in academia and mainstream media. This is the bullshit that gets plugged down their throats. Instead of showing them how to actually be successful for themselves, they are taught how to blame everybody else for the success they haven't had yet. This is a problem with this country in general. We see this with so many different groups in this country. They blame and they're told that there are these ghosts and these, magical power, not magical powers, but there are these forces working against them so they'll never be successful instead of being taught, hey, yeah, Spain, Portugal, and Belgium on that power outage, BZ. I have a feeling they know why, and they're just not telling us. That's just my humblest of opinions. But yeah, man, I mean, if you're in this country, you really have the ability, and I don't go on the rants like this too often. You have the ability to make anything of yourself. You look at some amazingly talented and famous people who came from absolutely nothing. One of the first people I always bring up is Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Ben Carson is proof that you can have the huge amount of roadblocks in your path to success and still get there if you have the grit and the determination. It's not given away. Nothing is. Nothing is given away. I'll tell you right now, if you if you think stuff's going to be given away, look up Soviet Russia. That's what happens under communism. Nothing. There's no food. There's bread lines. There's nothing. You get nothing. You wait 10 years for a plumber and you wait 10 years for a car. That's communism. I talked about that the only thing communism is the best at is killing people. Plain and simple. And if I say communism one more time, the fat electrician will show up and start yelling at me. But that's what these people, this is academia that's creating this. This is what happens when you have no life experience and they plop you down in front of some hippie or some lunatic extremist who turns around and says, oh yeah, the whole world's set up against you and it's all America's fault. I said before, you start telling people time and again, groups of people, that they're the victims and they're going to lash out. Because instead of telling them you have control over your situation and you have control over your life and you have the ability to succeed in whatever you do, as long as you put in the hard work, grit, and determination, you'll get there. And then you support people who are on those paths. That's not what academia is doing. That's not what academia and the left has done. And it is just absolutely horrific. And they wonder why these generations, these youth are acting the way they are. This is absolutely why. Let's see. Joshua in the chat room. Do I do a show every night? Joshua, I do a show every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. But if you hit the subscribe button, you know the deal. Thank you, BZ, was being kind enough to there it is. Answer, Josh. Joshua in the chat. I love it when our chatters are interacting with each other. It makes me happy. It makes things go well. Let's see. I don't know if you saw this. Representative Mark Pocan, and I have it saved somewhere. I'm not going to bring it up. It's not enough time left in the show. Tweeted out, Social Security is your fucking money. He's a Democrat. He's a leftist. And boy, did he absolutely take a beating for sending that out on X. The primary response is yes, and you guys wasted it, or yes, and you guys are giving it away, or yes, and you guys use it for other things, or yes, the politicians are the reason that Social Security sucks. Yes, it was always a Ponzi scheme, and on and on and on and on. And it was entirely amazing. It goes back to when I was talking about Kash Patel earlier. I love to see politicians get absolutely eviscerated for saying stupid shit. Social Security is a mess. We were told last year that it's probably not going to be around for people my age, right around 50. I won't say exactly what. We were told that Social Security is running out of money. Doge told us that a lot of it was being wasted in other places, and a lot of it was being sent to people who are no longer alive and 240 years old. But Representative Pocan, however you pronounce your name, you're not important enough for me to actually remember. I'm going to put it to you this way. If Social Security is truly my money, then at any point, I should be able to contact Social Security and say, hey, I want all the money I've put in with interest. Because, and obviously, you know the answer, they'll never give it to me. But here's what they're hoping with Social Security. They're hoping, and I think it's now 67 before you can collect. I think it's 67 now. They're hoping that you die before they pay you the amount of money that you paid in. That's what they're hedging their bet on. They're hedging the bet that you cease to exist. And yes, I know it can go on to your spouse and yada, 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 but it's still not as, and if your spouse paid into it the entire time, that's 2 coffers. But they're still not going to live long enough for you to make back what you put into it. Yeah, Joshua, unfortunately, buddy, there's a good chance, unless they fix something quickly, there's a good chance that you're not going to get it, my friend. But yeah, so it's not my money. It's a tax. It's a tax that you will occasionally pay me later on in life if I'm a good boy and I do everything right. You'll give me a little stipend instead of just most people do not live long enough to collect what they put in. Right? You should have an option. Hey, at 60, whatever the age is now, 67, you should be able to take all that money and go if you want to. But they don't want you to do that, and they'll never let you do that. That's how you know it's not actually your money. And other thing, oh gosh, you know what? This is funny enough for me to post, and it's only a few seconds, so bear with me. I love when media people use phrases and they have absolutely zero idea what it is. This is just CBS, folks, for the win.
One thing to understand is that all of that takes time. You know, we imagine in the conclave that there's all this charged political debate going on. No, inside the Sistine Chapel itself, virtually the entire time that the cardinals are inside is given over to the ritual of the balloting. Each ballot takes about an hour and a half, and with this extraordinary number of electors, it'll probably even take a little longer.
So they sit the whole time? They don't stand up and
most of them will tell you that while that's going on, they're sitting reading their breviary. That's a book of prayers that clergy have, or praying a rosary, or doing. The one thing we know they're not doing is checking Instagram, because their devices have all.
I believe the kids call it raw dogging it if you're going to go through a long period of time with no. Hold on.
What do kids call it?
Because their devices have all.
I believe the kids call it raw dogging it if you're going to go through a long period of time with.
Oh boy, I love it when nerds try to use hip terms. If you have no idea what raw dogging actually is, you can go to urbandictionary.com and look up raw dogging. I guarantee you, if the priests are doing that, they would get in a hell of a lot more trouble. Folks, that's going to be it for me. Please check me out every Monday and Wednesday right here on shrmedia.com, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have BZ Show, the Bloviating Zeppelins, Berserk, Bobcat Saloon, Tuesday and Thursdays during the day, you have Mission Ready Man with my dear friend Big E, and that's at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. And Monday and Friday nights, you have Reverb Common Sense with Jersey Joe, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. Now, you also have to check out our good friends over at KLRN. You can find them on X. You can find the website KLRN. They're absolutely, you need to check them out. They're awesome. There's some great shows over there, some wonderful people over there. So check them out. I will be back Monday night. I hope you have a good rest of your week. Have a couple of cocktails, have some fun, and do it just because, damn it, you deserve it.